You need to be ready for the FPL fixture swing in game week 12. This is very important where a lot of teams' fixtures do turn. There's a lot of teams that have good fixtures now, which then don't have good fixtures from game week 12. There's a lot of teams that then have bad fixtures now and then good fixtures in game week 12. And there's also some players that have good fixtures throughout this whole period of the next 8 to 10 game weeks. We're going to be just having kind of a discussion on 3 different topics. We kind of got the best players for the next few weeks for the game weeks 8 to 12. Then we've got the best players to own from game weeks 12 to 16. And then we also have the best players then from game week 8 until 16. So we have the long-term holds, we have players that are really good in the short term, and then players that are good in a few weeks' time as well. So we've got a bit of everything, 3 different kind of really big talking points in my opinion in FPL. Do drop a like on this video if you enjoy it and it helps you out. Please do subscribe to this channel as well. We do daily FPL videos where I think that we do a lot of helpful content. So if you're interested and you're a big FPL fan, this is the place to be. Hit subscribe on this channel and we'll jump straight into the video. Okay then, so what better way is there to start off by looking at the game weeks 8 up until game week 11. It says game week 12 there, but it is game week 11. Look at the fixtures up until then. As you can see on the bottom right, we've got the fixture ticker where that's kind of the teams that are ranked as the best fixtures, as you can see there. So that is a kind of top 10, Everton being number 1, and then Brentford being down at number 10. And all these teams, I'd say, do have a very nice fixture run in the next 4 games. So as you can see here, we've got 3 tiers. Tier 1 being the players that I think are the best to own. Tier 2, which I think are very good players to own. And Tier 3, which are still very good options, but I'm not 100% convinced on the team. We'll get to that and we'll discuss that in a bit. But we'll start off with the Tier 1. Now, Man City, as you can see, they have a really nice next 4 fixtures. They have Wolves away, Southampton at home, Bournemouth away, and then Brighton away. So it's a nice, like you said, it's a very nice fixture run for Man City. A very kind run in them next 4 games. I think owning 2 Man City players is quite, not essential, but I think it's the right way to go. Owning, of course, Erling Haaland. We know we need Erling Haaland for those fixtures. And then one other player. That could be Rico Lewis, that could be Gvardiol, that could be potentially Phil Foden. As I say, you can even go for a Man City triple up if you wanted to, which wouldn't be a problem at all with those next 4 fixtures. You'd say that's very, very ideal. And it's Man City as well. They are maybe the best team in the league. They won the league for the last however many seasons. So Man City are probably the best team in the league, even though they have got a lot of competition this season. But yeah, those 3 City players that are put, you can also add Phil Foden to that, are very good players to own. We've got Mbuemo. His fixtures do rank quite a bit lower, but it's still a nice run of fixtures. United away, Ipswich at home, Fulham away, and then Bournemouth at home. So it is a really nice run, you'd say, for Mbuemo still. And for me, he is as close to essential as you get. He's right in the top tier of players. So, yeah, Mbuemo for me is an absolute no-brainer. He's got to be in your teams. Then we've also got for the next few weeks Solanke and then Brennan Johnson. Now, you could maybe say I could put these in tier 2. I wouldn't say they're I put them right at the bottom of tier 1. They're kind of tier 1/tier 2 players. I think they're very important players. I wouldn't say Brennan Johnson is absolutely essential to own, and same with Solanke. They're both not essential players. But based on the fixtures that Spurs have got coming up, there's no doubt they're absolutely great players to own. And I do think they'll keep getting returns, to be honest. So I think they're really good, and I think they're going to do very well over the next few weeks. So I think those are 2 really good options. Going on to the tier 2 category we've got now, we've just got 2 Nottingham Forest players in there. As I said, you could maybe put the Spurs players into tier 2 as well. But Nottingham Forest have a really nice fixture run coming up as well. Crystal Palace at home, Leicester away, West Ham at home, and Newcastle at home. That's 3 fixtures in the next 4 at home for Nottingham Forest. So it's very good, I'd say, for especially defensively for Forest, who have been really good defensively, and one of the better teams in terms of defensive numbers in terms of XG conceded. Forest are right up with the best teams for that, which is very good. So Ola Aina, it could be Sells, it could be Aina, it could be another Forest defender. I think they're a great option personally, so that's why I put them in tier 2. And Chris Wood, he always seems to chip in with goals. He's got some nice fixtures coming up. There's a few doubts over his start potentially in game week 8 with him being out in international duty, but that's to kind of wait and see. But for me, Chris Wood is a tier 2. I think he's a great option. Now we're going to tier 3, where we've got 2 Everton players. It could be, you could, instead of Pickford, you could have Mikolenko. These are just kind of Everton players that are popular. So we've gone for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, he has got the best fixtures on paper with Ipswich away, Fulham at home, Southampton away, and West Ham away. That is a really, really good run. But Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't filled me with confidence. He's had games where he's looked really good, but he's also in games he's been very quiet as well. He's been quite indifferent. Now, I'm not saying Dominic Calvert-Lewin's a bad option. Otherwise, if he was a bad option or not a good enough option, he wouldn't even be in the tiers at all. So you can maybe argue that Dominic Calvert-Lewin could be in tier 2 along with Chris Wood. But I personally still prefer Chris Wood over the next 4 game weeks. That's why I put Chris Wood in tier 2 and Dominic Calvert-Lewin in tier 3. That's not to say Calvert-Lewin's a bad option. I think he's a great option personally. As for defensively for Everton, when Branthwaite's back, they look a lot better. Branthwaite was out last game, but they did keep a clean sheet without Branthwaite as well, so decent for Everton there. Jordan Pickford is a great option, I think, in goal. Very good value, and he got 15 points last game. He obviously saved the penalty, but we saw how good he was last season, especially in the second half of the season. And then you could maybe go for Mikolenko if he's fit as well. And yeah, he's good value, I think, at like 4.3 million. Then we go for Mavididi. Now, Leicester do have some good fixtures coming up. They have good fixtures long term as well. So I actually don't mind Mavididi. That's why I've just decided to put him in tier 3. Because he's a decent enough option, but he's not someone that I'd be looking at personally, but he's still a good option. Now, another player that is a really good option, but I'm not looking at him personally as well, is Liam Delap. I think he's got some good fixtures coming up, and in the long run, Ipswich have got some good fixtures, but I'm just not a big fan of Liam Delap personally. His numbers, his XG isn't great, but as I say, he's been good so far this season, and he's got good fixtures, so I still say he is a good pick, but just not at the top of my list personally. So now we're going on to the players with the best fixtures from game week 12 to game week 16. This is kind of the next block of fixtures where these players have got some really good fixtures. So they've got them in the tiers again, tier 1 being the best and tier 3 being the worst. So we'll start off with tier 1. Now we've got both the Arsenal players. You could also have Raya in there as well. Even Kai Havertz. Any Arsenal player I'm pretty much saying this is a good FPL asset. Here I've just put Saka and Gabriel in because they are very, very popular players. So Arsenal's fixtures, they're tough from game week 8 to 11. They do have Bournemouth in game week 8, which is a decent fixture, but then beyond that is a little bit tougher. But Arsenal's fixtures do get really good in 12. Nottingham Forest at home, and then they have West Ham away, then you have United at home, Fulham away, and then I think that's Everton at home. I'm struggling to see the screen, but it's a really good fixture run for Arsenal after this. And we know how good Arsenal are. So for me, a triple up on Arsenal. I've got a triple up in my personal team. I'm probably just going to stick with it through the bad fixtures because we know Arsenal, even though they have bad fixtures, are still very, very good against the good teams as well. So I don't mind holding my Arsenal players personally, but yeah, Saka and Gabriel. I mean, at least 2 Arsenal players I feel like you need for that fixture run from game week 12. I mean, at least 2, probably 3, but 2 is, I think, at least you've got Arsenal pretty well covered for that amazing fixture run from game week 12. Then we need to talk about Brighton assets in Mitoma. You could also put Danny Welbeck in this. Maybe not tier 1 for Welbeck, maybe tier 2. But a lot depends on whether João Pedro is back from injury or not for the kind of Brighton minutes. But let's say João Pedro isn't fit. Welbeck's a great option. But Mitoma is a fantastic option as well. At 6.6 million. With the fixtures coming up for Brighton there, you're looking at it. It's Bournemouth away, Southampton at home, Fulham at home, Leicester away, Palace at home. In my opinion, from game week 12 to 16, that the best block of fixtures for me and the best team that's got the best fixtures is Brighton. So for me, owning at least 1 Brighton asset from game week 12, I think is quite important. Maybe even 2, but I think at least 1. Then at least you've got Brighton covered a little bit. And Mitoma for me is the number 1 option. As I say, if João Pedro is still out, Welbeck's a great option. And if João Pedro is back and firing again, then João Pedro is a great option as well. Then in the next tier 1, we have Cole Palmer. I mean, the fixtures do turn a little bit for Chelsea in game week 12. You're looking at Leicester, Aston Villa, Southampton, Tottenham and Brentford. It's a nice run of fixtures for Chelsea, and Cole Palmer, even with the tough fixtures that Chelsea have got from game week 8 to 11, I'd still own Cole Palmer if I had him, and I'd still be happy to keep him and just roll with him throughout them game weeks. So Cole Palmer's a great option, and definitely in tier 1 for the game week 12 to 16 fixture run. Then in the tier 1, you might look at it being a little bit surprised, is 8 Nori. Now, Wolves' fixtures in general from after this game week 8 against Man City is actually a really good run. So 8 Nori for me is a player that from game week 8 onwards is a great option. I know Wolves haven't been the best defensively, but going forward, 8 Nori's got 2 goals, 2 assists. His attacking numbers are really good, like right up there for defenders. And we've seen for numerous seasons as well, this guy's very good going forward. So for me, he's someone that's definitely on my radar at 4.4 million and someone that I'm looking to bring into my personal team. I'm putting him in tier 1 due to the fact that around his price point in defenders, there's not really anybody that stands out too much at 4.5 million. And for me, 8 Nori is the number 1 pick, and it might sound mad with Wolves being so bad defensively, but the fixtures turn, and 8 Nori's got that attacking potential, so I actually really like him. Now we'll move on to tier 2. Now, Aston Villa have got some good fixtures coming up from game week 12. Morgan Rogers, for me, is the best Aston Villa asset, I can't even lie, because he's got the value in terms of, I mean, if you've owned him from the start, he was 5 million at the start, he's still only like 5.3 million now. So very good value. He's been playing pretty much all the minutes for Aston Villa, and he has looked very good. He was a bit disappointing against United, I know, but before that he was absolutely amazing every single game. And he has started getting the contributions as well, which is good to see. So we'll talk about Ollie Watkins in a minute, but I think Morgan Rogers is in tier 2. Now Cunha, we've kind of spoken about the 8 Nori fixtures. Obviously it's the same for Cunha. And Wolves have been pretty good going forward. It's defensively that's been their problems. And Cunha at 6.5 million is a big differential. And I actually think he's a really good option. Like I prefer him in the block of fixtures from game week 12 to 16 to, for example, Dominic Solanke, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think he's a really good option and a really big differential. So I think at least owning one Wolves player, it might sound mad, but I would actually, me personally, I'm going to be owning one Wolves player quite soon in my FPL team. And then we'll talk about Semenyo. Now, it's been well documented that his fixtures are tough from game week 8 to 11, but for Bournemouth, their fixtures do actually turn after game week 11, and that's where they have a really nice run of fixtures. Looking at you got Brighton, Wolves, Tottenham, Ipswich, and West Ham. It's a really nice run that is for Bournemouth. So Semenyo could just be potentially a long-term hold. Obviously, we're going to be talking about kind of the long-term holds in the next section of the video, but Semenyo, from game week 12 to 16, has one of the best fixture runs, and he is so influential for Bournemouth, so I really like him as an option. Going on to the tier 3 now, we've got Ollie Watkins. Now, it's just the fact that he's just so expensive. He's been decent enough this season. He hasn't set the world alight, and he hasn't massively impressed with performances. He has still chipped away and got points quite regularly, especially since game week 3. He's got points very regularly, and he could definitely be bumped up this list to maybe a tier 2, but it's just his price that has put me off him a little bit. That's why I prefer Morgan Rogers just for the value. But Ollie Watkins, I mean, these players still in tier 3, I think are still very good options. So Ollie Watkins, if you have him, fair enough, good option from game week 12 onwards, of course. Now going on to Anthony Gordon, he's a player that's not been talked about at all, really, in FPL this season. If Isak's out for long term, he is on penalties still. Obviously, he missed his last one, which is a shame. But the fixtures for Anthony Gordon are nice. Like West Ham at home, Crystal Palace away. Liverpool isn't great, but then Brentford and Leicester. Going forward offensively, those are very, very nice fixtures where there is goals for Newcastle. And I have no doubt that Anthony Gordon will be a really good pick, to be honest. And there's a differential at this point. No one really has him. I actually really like him. So Dominic Solanke was in the first set of fixtures, and he was in the tier 2, I believe. Or no, I think he was actually in tier 1, but he could have been in tier 2. He's kind of like in that section between. But yeah, I've kept him in tier 3 for this. I don't think Spurs' fixtures are good enough. Not quite amazing. Like, he's good. He's still a good option, but he's not a great option. So that's why he's in tier 3 there. And then Liam Delap is, again, decent fixtures for Ipswich. I mean, they're right at the top again. So, good fixtures for Ipswich. And, you know, as I said, Liam Delap is still a good option. But his numbers haven't been great. That puts me off him. But he's still a good option. That's why he's in tier 3 for me. So now talking about the long-term fixtures and the players that have the best fixtures in the long term. So, we've got the tier 1 again, tier 2 and tier 3. There's a lot more things to talk about here in the long run. There's a lot more kind of data and stuff that we need to take into consideration. So for the long run, I think Arsenal assets, even though they have a bad next few fixtures, for me, I just think hold the Arsenal players and just play them through the bad fixtures. We saw against like Spurs, for example, they did, they kept a clean sheet. Gabriel got that massive points haul. And against Man City as well, they still scored goals and got a 2-2 draw. So it's not like they can't perform against the good teams. We know Arsenal can perform. So for me personally, I'm happy to hold all my Arsenal assets through this. That's why I put him in tier 1. Now, Erling Haaland for me, do I need to explain it? He is a tier 1 player. No matter what the fixture are for Man City, I know they turned a little bit in game week 12 and they're not as good, but they're still good enough for me to probably hold Haaland. There will be discussion in a second where we'll discuss the next player, which you will probably know who we're talking about. But first we'll talk about Cole Palmer, where Chelsea's fixtures, they do get better from game week 12. Their fixtures turn. And as I said before, Cole Palmer was tier 1, and he's staying in tier 1. Like, if you own him, I just think you keep him and play him through the bad fixtures, because we've seen his record against the big 6 teams is very good, so I'm sure he'll be able to keep that up. Now, 8 Norrie we discussed before, great fixtures from game week 8 onwards, and I've already kind of justified for me why he's a tier 1 player, just for the value and the attacking output that he's got and the fixtures coming up. Mbuemo, I've still put him in tier 1, and I still think he's a great option from game week 12 onwards, even still. And he's, as I say, he's almost essential at this point, and I don't see him dropping out of that too quickly. He could potentially go down to a tier 2 maybe, but for now he's staying in tier 1 just due to how he started the season. Tier 2 then we're sticking with Morgan Rogers in tier 2, just to see, he's just a hold, isn't he? You know, for the value, if we've already got him, there's no point moving him on or anything like that. He's just a hold, don't really need to discuss too much. Dominic Solanke, over the next games, it's a good set of fixtures, and same with Brennan Johnson, same with your Spurs assets. They're good enough options, they're tier 2 options for me. Now, we've not discussed any Liverpool players. We've not discussed Salah. We've not discussed Trent, because Liverpool fixtures do turn, and they are quite bad for a while. But that is not to say that Mohamed Salah has to be sold, or Trent has to be sold. I still think they're great options, no matter what their fixtures are, because Liverpool have been the best team in the league this season, in my opinion. So there's no need to rush to get rid of him. I've got Trent in my team. He might leave eventually, yes, but it depends on the kind of situation of my team and how even Liverpool play against Chelsea, for example. You know, if Liverpool keep a clean sheet against Chelsea, I might even hold Trent into the Arsenal game, and then beyond that, I might hold him. So I'm not saying that you need to rush to get rid of them. That's why I'm putting them in tier 2, because they're not obviously the top tier, because they've not got the best fixtures. But that isn't to say that Liverpool assets are bad. And, you know, a Konate's a great option still. Trent's a great option. Salah's a great option. Even Luis Diaz could potentially be a great option. And Jota could be a great option as well. So you don't need to rush to get rid of them. Just the fixtures aren't ideal, so that I can't put them in tier 1. Now moving on to tier 3. We've got Liam Delap, the tier 3 merchant, apparently, in this video. I've already explained Delap. I like him, but I just prefer other options, personally. Cunha as well. He could maybe even go into tier 2, to be honest, but he is a little bit more expensive, so I put him in tier 3. Very good option still. These tier 3 options are still great options, in my opinion. Semenyo, obviously tough next 3 fixtures, then beyond that, a really nice run for Bournemouth. That's why he's in tier 3. Mavididi, really good fixtures for Leicester throughout the whole of the 8 games. As you can see, they rank second in the fixture run over the 8 games. So Mavididi is a tier 3 option for me. He's good enough. He's still a good enough pick, to be honest. I don't mind him at all. I just don't have him in my team, but I wouldn't transfer him. But if you had him, I'd hold him. And same with Calvert-Lewin, to be honest. I'd just keep hold of him. Everton's fixtures in the long run are pretty good, all the way up until like game week 14, where it does turn, where they do have a really nasty fixture run from there. But Calvert-Lewin up until game week 14, honestly, with the fixtures, if you had him, I'd just keep him. And same with Chris Wood. Like, whoever you've got, I'd just stick with, to be honest. There's no point messing about with transfers. As I say, the fixtures change at game week 12. You need to be ready to kind of bring in a few players that have better fixtures coming up. But let me know what you think of that video. I think it is a very helpful one, talking about all the kind of key players for the next 8 game weeks. It's always good to in FPL to look ahead to the future. So drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And that would be very much appreciated as well. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.